Hello, and welcome to another episode of Summoning Insight with me, MonteCristo and Thorin. We've got some great guests today in Zven and Bwipo to talk about LCS. Obviously, a lot of interesting things to talk about in relation to Cloud9 and Fnatic this week. But first off, I thought we'd have a conversation that they will not be able to have, which is our topic about the ban of IWillDominate.
You have to knock that one down, mate.
Which is about the ban of IWillDominate from the League Partner Program and the co-streaming effort that has brought him really good viewership. Obviously, it's a shame. Many people liked and will continue to like watching alongside him, but he cannot do it with the full broadcast anymore. So what this basically means, if you're not familiar with it, is that while he can continue to provide commentary that has to be synced up manually with the game, he can no longer show the LCS gameplay on his stream itself, which means that...
Although it's worth pointing out, by the way, he actually did, somebody made him like a website that you can make that like syncs it up for you basically when you watch his stream. So it's not like you have to like, it's not a massive hassle yourself. There's actually a link you can just click on when you do it. So it's still pretty decent to watch.
Yes. So I didn't notice that it like dramatically affected his viewers this last weekend as a result. But obviously that is that's going to be a big issue for him. And I think the bigger issue is the surprising news that Riot will not specify as to why he is banned. Based
no surprise there, then. That's fucking standard MO. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no.
If people haven't noticed, here's the real joke about Riot that nobody acknowledges. And I've said this from day one. Because of how utterly corrupt the world of IP rights is. By the way, anyone who wants to go, Thorin, but are you some sort of socialist? Just look into the Disney Corporation and the history of IP rights if you want to find out how that entire field isn't even what it was initially intended to be. But anyway, if you're one of those people who's like, but they have the IP rights, therefore they can do whatever they want. First of all, don't ever complain about like child labor, for example. That's perfectly legal in the countries they're doing that. By your logic, that's fine. So anyone who does that, I'm going, right. My position on Riot is this. Riot don't owe you any explanation whatsoever, unless you can legally, which means with the power of the state and guns, force them to do what you want to do. They can do anything they want. So I understand from day one that they are literally unattainable god kings of League of Legends and can do anything they want, no matter how. Think of the most depraved emperors and rulers in history, having people beheaded at a whim, just putting out rules that don't even make sense and can even be like paradoxical in nature, like under Stalin's USSR, for example. When those people do that, right, at least when they do it, you go, it's not like we had any say. They're just a corrupt power, aren't they? So everyone just has to kind of do what they say. What Riot likes to do is have all the same power, act the same way, but at the end, always try and drape over it like, I would say, like the veneer of respectability, like pretend like they actually have a process, a tribunal that people go in front of and argue their case, or pretend that there are rules which they're monitoring and applying unilaterally to everyone and in fair scenario. They're not doing any of these things, by the way. That's a complete fiction and a conceit that we all enter into to have these discussions. So at the beginning of the discussion, understand at the top, none of us can get IWillDominate unbanned. Whether he was banned, there's no such thing as justly banned. The question is, did Riot want to ban him? Yes, they did. Therefore, they did it to him now. So what I'm saying is this. I'm just going to get ahead of a million episodes of this show having the same problem. If you're anyone out there, right, who thinks, oh, I hope they don't fuck with me if I co-stream. I hope they don't fuck with me and delete my VOD because it has footage of League of Legends in. Oh, I hope they don't try and someone inhibit my... Just assume they will. If you don't, if you take any other course of action, you are a fool and let it be upon your own head.
And just as an aside, like one of the reasons why when people ask me if I want to go back and cast League of Legends and I say no, it's because I like to do this kind of content on this show, and that somewhat precludes me, if I want to do things my way, then I basically, it's very difficult to have a relationship with Riot because you're constantly reliant on them for their goodwill and services, right? And that's not...
Dude, it's like I said on Twitter, what even is a relationship with Riot? I've never seen one, because when I think of the word relationship, right, I think of like two people who are in some way involved in a situation where there's like a dynamic. Yeah, one might still have more power or control. Riot, there's no relationship there, mate. What happens is this, is basically, if you do everything Riot says, things are fine. The second you don't, they'll take everything away from you. There's no relationship to be had, like as we're seeing in this scenario, right? Another thing Riot loves to do is, because No, because all game devs do this, by the way, and they do it for an essential philosophical reason, to let every person who uses their game understand this is real, that none of you mean anything, none of you have ever done anything for the game dev. All you have ever been is a parasite on their project that you don't even own. You just lease from them temporarily while you maintain the terms and services. And the reason I know that is because the same thing happens in CSGO, mate. Even though IWillDominate is one of, like, let's be real, like 5 people who are of such an enormous stature, Riot should literally have their own private people in the esports world that deal with their cases. Like, it's not like when they reach out, it should just be like any random in bronze just sending a report in, like, oh, guys, flame me. No, literally, when people on the level of IWillDominate and the big streamers and the pros have issues, it should be like if I have an issue with Twitter where I'm verified, like, I can get it dealt with 10 times faster.
It's like a white glove service.
Twitter acknowledges that not everyone's on equal standing, and this person contributes more. Like, if I'm verified on their platform with loads of viewers, I keep people on their platform. I bring people to their platform. Riot and the game devs will never do that. They will always treat you, even if your IWillDominate, a guy who's given like half his fucking life to their fucking shit little daughter clone video game. They treat a guy like that like he was the parasite leeching from them. Not the other way around. The IWillDominate gave half his life in a craft of being a pro and a content creator, and they just leeched off him 24/7 the whole time. Because remember, they gave that game away for free. In fact, any time he spent or any money he spent, that was his money. So I don't know where Riot's side of this relationship comes in. Like, in this scenario, like you say, you can still co-stream. You just can't do it with the like actual stream on his. You can sync it up. So all they've done is cut off their own nose to spite their face. Like, no one's gained from this. Like, what positives come out of this scenario? No positive. And as usual, by the way, we can't actually have the interesting discussion, which would be like, what should the case be of where someone's banned? Because as usual, this is why all IWillDominate topics are so worthless on Reddit. It all just comes down to this same principle, Monty.
Do you like it?
Oh, but it's sometimes toxic. And I once had a toxic guy and he was really toxic. It's a ban them all. It's like that's about the level of nuanced discussion you can have about any ban. Like, basically, if you say like, oh, well, maybe what he did didn't deserve a lifetime ban, they make it like, so you think everyone should just ban? Like, right there, that's another topic out the way. Right? I think there's a bus for this guy to pick him up. Like, we can't ever have the discussions, can we? Can't even get into them.
Yeah, I mean, I think like my opinion is that Dominate definitely had behaviors that he, you know, having been banned himself before, by the way. So you have to remember that he himself...
Dude, it's toxic. Like saying he went to the strip club and the stripper got her tits out. Yeah, no shit. And that would be totally inappropriate if she worked in a fucking supermarket. But she's a stripper. You're only there to see the tits. It's literally a place for seeing tits. You know what? There's no top-notch service on Twitch that says it's illegal to be an arsehole. Otherwise, none of us would be on this motherfucker. Why is that illegal now? When did that become an actual sin from God? Is that what he did? He come down with the 10 Commandments like, being toxic. Kill them all. Kill them all. No, I don't think so somehow.
Oh, I'm dying. So the other thing is, like,
I can imagine complaining 2020 about IWillDominate being toxic. Are you kidding me?
They did know what they were getting into.
He's good at it. He's fucking good at being toxic. He's the best.
So I think that's actually that does have some merit, because when you look at the kind of, I think Riot needs to ask themselves some very serious questions, because when you look at the kind of streamers and content creators that are popular, you know, a lot of the time it's more entertaining. Like, it's an entertainment choice to be more toxic. I've
right? This before. Seriously, this is a real question I want anyone to answer. Not really, because you're all fucking idiots, but if you were real people, right? So if there was any sentient humans, my question is always this, Monty. It's the same with journalists. You know, when everyone tells me that me and every other legendary journalist is a racist, bigot, homophobe, Nazi, all the million terms they tell us we are, all I ever say is this. Cool, right? At the end of the list, you're now, to make sure that we know that you're in good faith arguing, now you have to tell me who the legendary journalist who's working in esports for 20 years, who's none of those things is. I'm waiting. There's never an answer, is there? So it's the same with content creators. Like, well, it's like we've said this every week now, Monty. Why is the Riot broadcast shit? Because anyone who's good can't be hired by Riot, because it's built into their philosophy. So by the same logic, yes, all the best content creators pretty much on the internet are considered toxic. Well, because at this point in time, this is where we are in 2020, guys. Any form of humor is toxic. I've said this a million times. There's no joke in the world that someone isn't the butt of the joke. That is the premise of humor. The premise of humor literally is me and Monty can laugh because we're not person C. And that can literally be the only defining factor. We are not C, he is C. Therefore, look, isn't it hilarious to not be C? That's at the basis of every fucking joke in the world. So now we're supposed to act like. So I'd say the same thing. Let's spin it back. Where's the super popular 50k concurrent views Amish streamer that never ever swears and always tries to use wholesome fellowship to raise up his man like they would a barn in their fine communities? And where is this guy? Where is this fucking amazing human? Because I haven't seen one. I tell you who I've seen that's popular. Tyler One, a Shin. Fucking all of them. Half of them, by the way, if they haven't been done for toxicity, got done for way worse shit about a month ago. So who the fuck are these people? What is this straw man that there are streamers that aren't like this? I tell you who the streamers are who aren't like that. I'll straight up say it right now. Don't give a fuck what Twitch is. They're women and they're allowed to abuse people toxically, but they're allowed to just do it in a way that's allowed in the modern day. They're allowed to say you have a small dick and you'll never get sex with anyone and you're probably a piece of shit and should die. And like, you can say all that shit. That's just cool. You still be in the league partnership program. You still be on Twitch. You still have all your fucking subs. That's the world we live in. So I always say, like, you got to go back to first principles. What are we even arguing about here? Like, is the league partnership program going to have nobody who does any toxicity in it? In that case, it's going to have nobody in it.
I guess who
could be in it. Who else is in it, by the way? Do we know?
Well, I know LS, Loco. There's a bunch. There's a list online that can co-stream. But I think the fundamental issue with co-streaming is this. So if you want the polished product where the casters are going to hype it up and you're going to make the plays seem as consequential as possible and tell these narratives, then you're going to go to the official broadcast. So necessarily anyone who's co-streaming is going to have a different approach. Like, you're not going to beat the Riot casters at having the audience for that kind of product. So when you're making something else, now the most popular kind of content to make is something that's a little bit more critical, right? And I have done that in the past too with my VOD reviews of LCS historically in other regions. You have to have a different tone and different approach because you have to give people a reason to watch your stream as opposed to something else. Now, I think when we talk about these people, maybe Dom being a contributor to the official LCS broadcast, I think the problem is that Riot just gets mad and they don't realize that these people can, in fact, do what they want them to do. And perhaps they would be different on a podcast as opposed to the show. Interestingly, I got into, I think, the same kind of trouble with this with Riot, where we would have this show, which is definitely more critical, which is definitely more edgy. But I wouldn't bring that into a Worlds broadcast. You know what I mean? It's just not the place for it. Like, these are two different products and people are capable of multiple different things. But I think that they don't potentially understand that.
Wasn't that also a key part that people are missing here? Is that even though logically, right? Think of it this way. Here's the metaphor. If I was banned in League of Legends, we all know, I hope everyone understands what I'm about to say, the only reason that should ever be possible is because I did something in League of Legends. The idea I could do a tweet and Riot could ban me in League of Legends is outrageous. Wasn't it implied by IWillDominate that was because of his social media?
Yes. So
it wasn't even anything he said on the fucking core stream. So now we're living in the world, which, by the way, is anyone noticing a familiar trend here? There's a guy called Richard Lewis in Reddit. He got banned from Reddit for things he did on Twitter. It's the same logic. These people, they don't even want to just control their world. Like, now Riot apparently wants to control all your Twitter. And again, this is the other thing, because they've never said what he said. As far as I know, I think he thinks it's just that tweet, which it better not be, that one where he makes that fucking joke about nail polish or whatever. Like, that better not be the actual reason he's banned.
Yeah, I don't know. And I
mean, no one can know, right? So
I think it's also, I do question like the fact that he had just left Team Liquid as well, as to the timing of this, because for him to leave Team Liquid, like before, I have a feeling that he was maybe protected because he was, a part of a business that they were partners with Team Liquid, with the LCS. And it just seems a little weird that his ban coincided with the fact that he had left Team Liquid. You know what I mean? As soon as he goes independent and he is no longer part of the business operations of a partner team, that is when immediately he becomes banned.
Potentially it's coincidental. Getting even more paranoid and thinking that they just told Team Liquid to release him so they could fuck him. Now I have to start thinking that's a possibility. That has to be on the table now. If you know Riot.
Yeah, I think it's
everything's on the table now, sadly.
This is the issue, guys, because some of you may not know this, but any game developer, and I think to go back to what you were saying before, Thorin, this is an issue with IP rights, because all game developers own all instances of the IP. So technically Riot owns every single Twitch stream, the content of every single Twitch stream that displays one of their games. They own every single YouTube video.
Every skin you have in the game, they own every single part of the game. Like if you've bought $1,000 worth of skins, bad news for you.
Yeah, you have a license.
You've just leased them inside that. Like the second they ban your account, they never belong to you ever.
Yeah, they license them to you. But like I said, that's one thing. What's crazy to me is that they own every YouTube video that shows League of Legends or Valorant or Legends of Runeterra, any of their other games, right? And I think that
in theory, yeah.
So by the way, Riot allows everyone else to like propagate YouTube videos of their game and to make money off of it, right? They could technically claim all of that content on YouTube if they really wanted to. Obviously, it wouldn't be a good PR move and it wouldn't be a good business move for them, but they could. And I think that that's one of the things that really needs to be revisited about intellectual property in the modern era is it's the same stuff with like the DMCAs on Twitch by musical artists. Like, is playing a song once in the background while you're streaming a video game, should you really be able to issue DMCA requests for that? In my opinion, that's kind of an overreach, right? In the same way that I think, and I just think IP in general needs to be revisited in terms of law, because there are so many new use cases for these things that seem a little bit ridiculous to be able to exercise control over. But yeah, I mean, the scary thing is that, Riot could go after an individual creator too. They could, and just deny them use of any of their intellectual property for any of their content whatsoever. It's scary. It's scary. And yeah, I think we can leave the conversation at that unless you have any more thoughts, Thorin.
No, that's generally it. I would just say, by the way, another angle as well that needs to be understood is don't ever waste your time trying to make an argument. It's been done from day one. It'll never work. But Riot would only make more. They don't give a fuck about making more money. They just want 100% control for real. That's it. If they hear, well, if you give up 0.5% control, you can make twice as much money. They would say, no, thanks, I won't make that money. I mean, they wouldn't actually have a choice in 2020 because Tencent would make them. But that's what they have done over and over again. If their MO is always control over money. Because in this scenario, by the way, like I said, Dom can still do the games. You just have to have 2 streams open. So in theory, it just makes it mildly harder. So in that scenario, Riot doesn't massively gain or lose from banning him. They just fuck with him. That's it. And in fact, you could even make the obvious logical case that he was helping their brand because he was bringing more viewers that they wouldn't otherwise get. And as you alluded to earlier, it's not even viewers that are on the official broadcast. Therefore, it doesn't matter that his tone's different. Your sponsors aren't represented by his in the same way. Like, I'm sure you have some assets you have to show, but that's about it. So if you're actually smart, this is obviously, I would have even gone the other way, Monty, and said, if they were clever, this is where Riot could actually have sort of had a little bit of sleight of hand to have people promote their stream that they wouldn't want to officially be partnered with in the sense of having on their stream, because it's not their stream, is it? Someone else's. So if they were smart, there's obviously a way this could have all worked, but that's not Riot Games, is it? So there ends the if Riot Games was smart portion of that show, which would be a fucking Twilight Zone series.
I also think that my prediction is that the co-stream is going to come to an end when Riot sells exclusive media rights at the end of this year as well.
For everyone.
For everybody.
So by the way, it doesn't matter if you think LS is doing a great, everyone could be doing the best job ever. They'll just yank that carpet out from under every single person. So I would suggest don't put all your armoire and all your priceless fucking relics on top of it because they're just going to be on the floor soon.
Yeah, I would proceed not having any inside information. I would proceed with at least the possibility that could occur as exclusive media rights are sold. But, that's for a business podcast. Let's get Zven on, guys, and actually talk about some League of Legends matches as we get into the Cloud9 portion of the show. All right, we've got Zven on. We were just having a conversation a little bit about the Dominate ban, and I want to bring this up again because I think it's interesting to have a player perspective on it. But one of the most wild things just in general about the internet right now and having the visibility over esports pros is that competitors and professional athletes are incredibly toxic because they're competitive people. I know I'm a little bit late to the party, but I just finished watching The Last Dance, and like the amount of shit talk that goes on in those games is absolutely ridiculous. And so the problem is that while you're on the court or while you're in practice, no one's recording that stuff for the most part, and it certainly isn't going out to the public live. And it's not even your fault. Even if you're just in a game, Zven, and somebody else happens to be streaming and sees you talking shit to them a little bit or getting frustrated or upset, well, then you're suddenly on the hook for it. And as competitive people, you tend to be kind of aggressive because you want to win. And I don't think that there's a way, I don't think there's a way to separate competitive drive with occasional shit talking. I think anyone who's competitive will do that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, I'm also kind of like, I think if you ask 9 out of 10 people on the North American server, like in solo queue, they'll say I'm annoying to have in their game because I talk a lot and I tell people what to do and what not to do, and I get mad when they don't listen to me. But if you ask them, would they have me on their team or someone else, they'll say me, right? I'm the rank 1 player in the NA server, and they're like, people hate me because I'm like annoying and I tell people what to do and I get passive aggressive if they don't listen to me. But like in the end, like I'd rather have that on my team than someone who's griefing my game.
Well, that's the whole point of like, it's very interesting, I think, in The Last Dance to hear Michael Jordan's teammates in retrospect talk about their practices. Because basically people were like, he is an asshole and he is a jerk, but if he hadn't done that, then we wouldn't have won 6 titles. Because the kind of leader that he was is that he had such high expectations of his teammates that he would just brutally push you until you were able to win that championship. And like you say, people still want to play with you because you're the number 1 player.
It's basically, if you've ever read the biography, the exact same story as what like fucking Steve Jobs was like at Apple. It was the same thing. He was making everyone's job there a nightmare because he was doing shit like, if you told him, oh, I've got this great idea, it'll take 3 months. He'd be like, right, I'll give it in 2 weeks. They'd be like, well, that's in 3 months, not 3 weeks. And they were like, yeah, 2 weeks. You've got 2 weeks to do it. Like, because he knew, like, if you like, basically, if you pushed the person to the limit of sanity, they could do it in 2 weeks. And so it was the same logic. You were trying to accomplish something great. Well, the area where this has totally been fucked, and the reason why League of Legends will always be like this, Monty, is because of the way the game is designed. So even though this is one of the number 1 things that I've always hated about Reddit, is when people complain on Reddit, right, they never give even the circumstances of the game they're playing in, right? Because the first question I have is always this, right? What mode are you playing? If the answer, by the way, is ranked and you're about to complain about people typing things because you fucked up, you're in the wrong queue. Go to the fucking normal queue, you idiot. It's even called normal. Guess what? That's for normal behavior. That's where you go to have fun. That would be like if me and Zven went down the park now and we were just playing with a bunch of random kids there. Yeah, it wouldn't be appropriate if that kid misses a cross to be in his face like, you fucking idiot. That was my chance to win the game. But you know what? If me and Zven were playing in a fucking competitive league where if he wins, he gets to be a pro footballer and our entire futures are on the line, I would be screaming in the guy's face if the guy was fucking up all the crosses and we need to win this game. One's appropriate, one isn't. So I've always wondered, like, why are people, like, because this is one of the worst things about online games. The reason people don't play the normal queue, I already know, Sven, is because they all want to be ranked, right, in every game they play. They always want to be as high rank as they can. So even though they really do just want to fuck around and have a fun game and not have pressure, they'll never just play a normals game. That's just what you do when you're like trying to pretend to fucking bear that you're good at the game or some shit. What you do instead is you play the ranked game, don't you? You press that button and then you ruin everyone else's life by then pretending like you're at fucking grandma's Sunday tea dinner. And it's like, why is everyone being mean to me? Because I'm shit. I mean, trolling the game. It's like, that's actually appropriate. I'm not saying if I go down the park now in fucking like New York City into some hood where they're all playing basketball, if I just roll up there and start just airballing all the ball, you think they're all just going to keep passing me and go, well, wouldn't want to be toxic. He's just having fun, isn't he? Look, he's just having fun airballing. No, they're going to go get the fuck off the park now. And the guy's going to be right in my face where he should be. So that's all I'm saying is, what's the league equivalent? How can I get in people's faces in league? Because that's appropriate.
Scratch, bro, you're losing it.
Imagine if the NBA like sent like behavior referees to every court on the planet. Right? Every basketball court, you just had to sit there, and if somebody started being mean, they would just stop you from doing it. It's like such a ridiculous concept.
That's a stupid spot, isn't it? We made this fantasy realm that doesn't actually match up with real life whatsoever. It's like, holy shit, what is this? That's why, listen, I'll just make one minute rank. This is why I loved online games and why I hate esports. Because esports isn't anything to do with online games anymore. It is a bunch of just stupid shit of people playing like Fortnite, like, you're just famous enough now there, Dad. Do you know, did McDonald's sponsor me yet? That's esports. Esports was supposed to be a bunch of fucking Quake players playing the hardest game in the world that have no fucking rules like that. You can just literally be wrecking the guy typing like, I'm shitting in your mouth. While you just reckon him, he can't do anything about it. At the end, the game goes, you win. Don't even care about things people type. You get all the money. That's supposed to be esports. It's supposed to be the most vicious dimension ever. You know what I love? I love those old school games. I don't even know if RuneScape has this, but those old school ones like Ultima Online, where when the guy just kills you in the forest, he just takes all your shit and you can't even get it back. And you're like, is there any guards on? It's like, no, there's no guards. It's like real life, bitch. You're not in a city. There's no guards. Your shit's gone. Start over from step one. That's what real life's like. So why not make the fantasy world? Why is my fantasy world more limited than my real life? That doesn't even make sense. This is garbage.
Welcome to the show.
You want to talk about League of Legends?
Whenever you're done, it's fine.
It's all right. I'm just trying to make my own like Joe Rogan style 10-minute clips that are going to go viral. So I'm trying to. I've had a couple of advice. I'll get one eventually. Then it's all right. I'll get one eventually.
Well, this is already a hilarious episode. It's only going to get better with you here, Zven. So
that's the thing, though. I want to ask Sven about that. Like, listen. I do think that there's a very nuanced debate you can have about the topic Monty brought up, like how competitive like top players are and stuff. Like, for example, yeah, if a top player is playing like for example, when I watched that last dance documentary, I certainly wouldn't behave to people like that. Like, I did think sometimes he probably went way too far. Like when he basically like beat up his fucking teammates, that is unacceptable to me. But there's definitely a discussion you can have. Like I was trying to basically have before I went on like the comedic rant, which is that it is very different being a top pro trying to practice for a sport in essentially the same game as a guy that's just playing just for fun. He's like, play new, why not? Like he's playing a different game than you in that scenario. So to me, like, I'm not saying you have to be super toxic, but there should be a different appropriate levels of behavior for the different people participating, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a place for people like Michael Jordan, like obviously to a lesser extent, where you push people in an aggressive manner to force them to improve or change who they are, right? And I think for some people that work, and for some people it doesn't. And I think it's all up to your teammates how they respond to it. Because I think if I look back at my teammates in the past, if I stood up and yelled at them, some people would be like, "What the fuck is this guy doing?" And they would be like, get mad at me and trigger at me. And some people would be like, "Oh, he's right. I will change, what I do." And in Origin, for example, people were very, very direct with each other, and people would get mad and trigger all the time. But at the end of the day, they would all take ball set to heart and improve, right? So in some teams it works. People are very, very direct, and people are very like aggressive.
It was like the problem-solving method.
Yeah, people are very aggressive. And in other teams, people are more like, "Hey man, I think today you made this mistake in this game, like this," and like this, like soft, caring, like parent. Well, some teams you're very like parent, child, like you're very soft to them, I guess. And some people are like different people, so they are soft, and some people are very easily triggered or offended, and some people are not, right? They get defensive, some people don't. So I think it depends on the people you're working with and the player you are.
But that's the coach that has to come in.
We can't judge either set of groups. I mean, on the one hand, you had like OG, these players who were, arguing, confronting directly, semi-finals of Worlds, and then you had TSM. Well, there's not one time where they didn't get Koreans and they got out of a group one time ever. One time it only happened one time. So we can't really judge. I mean, pretty even really, isn't it? So
it wasn't just TSM, but like just singular players in different teams have this like, if you approach someone, let's say we lost all 5 games, right? And you approach someone like Trick right after the 5th game we lost, and tell him about his mistake, he'll be triggered about it. He'd rather just wait 10 minutes so he can calm down, right? But if I tell Mitty, you're so fucking boosted at Alistar, right? He'll be like, "Yeah, I agree. I'm fucking shit. I'm gonna go watch some VODs of this wolf guy playing Alistar so I can learn." He wouldn't care, right? Because that's how he is, right? And Amazing and Mitty would like just flame each other the whole day, right? About how you're so bad at this champion and you lost this game solo because you can't play this champion correctly. So go play solo queue right now, or something like this, and they'll be fine with it. But some people, like SOAS, for example, wouldn't like if someone told them like, "You're fucking bad at this champion and do this and this because you're too bad," right? So like different people are different,
Sure.
Yeah, they take it and they give it differently, right? Some people can take it and some people can't, and it's just you gotta figure out what kind of person your teammates are before you do either, right? Because some people just can't handle being criticized right after they lost the game. They just wait like 10 minutes or a whole day, maybe, I don't know, before they can calm down, right? So I think it's about recognizing what kind of person your teammates are.
Well,
and
that's the whole thing that coaching brings too. And to bring it back to The Last Dance, like that's why they literally didn't give a fuck that Dennis Rodman was like missing practice during the finals to go be on WWE. Or like he just like pieced out and went to Vegas for like a week and just went on a bender. Different players need different things because they realized that the alternative, like they had 2 choices. They knew that if they let him do that, that he would come back and he would focus on the game and play super well. But if they didn't let him do that, then he would be a little bitch, you know, and just be disruptive and like not play particularly well because he was focused on other things. Like he just had to get it out of his system, and they just had to recognize that that's how it worked for him as an individual. And each player has their different kind of needs or different ways of dealing with things, and it's the coach's job to kind of cater to those players' needs, to activate the best parts of those players' performances, right? And so, like, you know, like you're saying, there's just a bunch of different approaches to that, and how you deal with it, I think, is really very obvious within that documentary, which is, you know, refreshing to see.
Yeah, I mean, I loved The Last Dance because it was really insightful. I didn't know much about basketball before I watched it, but I think it's great. I think the stuff is very different when you deal with people that are like that caliber of a player, like Michael Jordan and Rodman. Like they're obviously like not just like your average pro player in basketball. They're like the next level, right? Jordan especially. So I think when you have people like those people, you have to just care to them, right? It's like having Faker in your team. I'm sure that coaching staff listens to Faker more than anyone else in a lot of situations, especially back in the day. Like let's say it's season 5, right? When Faker was like the best player by far, like undisputed. I'm sure people listen to him more than anyone else just because of his status as a player, similar to Jordan, I suppose. So if he says something, doesn't matter how he says it, you'll probably listen to him, right? So I think it makes sense that no matter how Jordan said it or which way he said it or how aggressive he was, they would listen to him because he probably is right by what he said, right? So,
but he earned it. That's the thing.
By the way,
he earned it by having the best work ethic and being the best player, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you earned that.
You know,
shit.
Monty, I don't know if you ever saw this, but when in the off season all that drama was going on with CV Max and Griffin when he was going to leave and he was going to go to DRX, and then there was the whole thing of like, did he abuse the players or whatever? One of the areas that just showed me how even Korean media is fake, just like it is in AstroTurf to fuck like in the West, where people will just present premises that don't make sense to anyone who's lived a normal life. They were trying to imply, Monty, no joke, that even just saying stuff in a mean voice was like super unusual for the Korean scene, that he said to them like, you know, and then one time he criticized him heavily for losing the game. And I was just sat there like, so we're just pretending that they're not Korean. Is this real? And we're actually all just going to pretend that they're in like a world-class Korean org and they never criticized each other and that they're all just being super polite, like fucking, again, 14-year-old Western girls. I don't think so somehow. Like, if people only knew what those Korean teams were like, dude, those Korean like top head coaches, they are fucking like the only level you could find anything like that now, because actually in the West with HR departments, you can't do this anymore. You'd have to go back to like the 80s when people were working on like Wall Street and people were just tearing them up in their face. Like, that's what being Korean coaches are like. Dude, they'll just tell you straight up that like, like your own family's going to disown you if you like.
I said this.
Shit. Like, it's outrageous.
I said this on Twitter at the time, but I was like, if you think CV Max it is worthy of a ban, then like every team should be banning people in Korea. Like, dude,
that's
I
their
know
culture. It's super harsh. It's like results or nothing. Basically,
I know the most wild shit. Like there were some old school coaches in Korea from other games that transitioned into League of Legends that I know in other games, every time their team would lose, they would threaten to throw them out of the team and out of the team house and replace them every single time they lost, like go completely bananas on them. Like, I know this happened. And so, and those people, by the way, still work in League of Legends today. And the reason why people, and it was funny because people were like, expose them, Monty. I'm like, you don't exist in this world. And what I don't think people understand is like, I'm not condoning, you know, physical violence to the players or anything like that, but it's difficult to describe when there's a drive for excellence, and some people need to be pushed like that, and they need to be.
We don't know all the variables, basically, do we? We just know the outcome, which is like they're from a different culture and they are the most successful people. So I mean, listen, if I knew all the circumstances, maybe I could judge, but I don't know what the background they're coming from.
Well, it's also that even in our culture, like it's some whiplash shit. You know what I mean? Like, go watch that movie, and you'll be like, wow, this is really brutal, and maybe this is unacceptable or dealing psychological damage to this young man. But at the end of the day, it gets a performance out of him that is second to none. And I think people just don't understand, if you are not hyper competitive or hyper driven, it doesn't affect you in the same way to have that conversation. And in many ways, the people like this somewhat perversely enjoy it because it's pushing them to the next level. Like, you're never going to understand, to take the Whiplash example, Charlie Parker, who's one of my favorite jazz artists, was practicing saxophone for 16 hours a day in order to get as good as he was and revolutionize jazz as a genre. And if you aren't willing to do that, then you will never achieve that level of greatness, right? And it's like when we talk about players like Faker and their dedication to the game and how many games they play, or you, Zven, like you famously play a shit ton of League of Legends, which is why, I mean, I was amazed this preseason what you guys played so many games while you were in Korea. You didn't do anything besides that. And I think that the normal person can't identify with the repetitive practice or, you know, sometimes punishing drive that has to come from a coach in order to push you to the next level. And then they think that just because they are a person who wouldn't want that to happen to them, therefore it is somehow wrong.
They also make this mistake, right? Which is, I always say this, you should never call actual pros trying to get better playing. Like, that is a totally inappropriate use of the word play. Because when I say I play League of Legends, I mean when I play, I just pick whatever champion I want. I do whatever the fuck I want in the game. If we win or lose, they can't do anything against me anyway. It's up to me what I do. And then I'm just having fun. I'm just doing whatever I want. If Sven plays League of Legends, he's not doing that, is he? He's trying to get better. So he's practicing, actually. He's practicing a specific way. Sometimes that's probably not even fun. Like, I'm sure sometimes you have to practice some matchup where it's like a losing matchup. It's probably garbage. That's not fun. So which one of us is going to react more in a more inappropriate way? Me, just having fun doing whatever I want, which, by the way, I purposely set up that way to imply I might be having my fun at the expense of all 9 other people on the fucking server. My fun might be to ruin their fun. I might be that fucking cunt who plays Nuru Jungle for 10 years. Whoever that is. There's always one of them out there. Like, people who don't even troll pick it. They actually pick it on purpose. So the worst humans in the world, I call them. So I could be that guy, or in case of Sven, if he's trying to actually practice the game, obviously he's going to be way more likely to get annoyed at someone fucking up the game, doing something wrong, maybe purposely trolling, soft inting the game, which is like the fucking... That's like the biggest toxicity in League of Legends that they're never going to do anything about, is the soft int. It's the fact that, like, dude, you don't even have to be a good actor to get away with trolling in League of Legends. It's pathetic, isn't it? Like, it's be one thing if you had to be some method actor. You just have to pretend you're stupid enough that you could actually be a functional moron who's actually losing the game like this. And then Riot has to go, well, even though he's in Masters, I'm just going to pretend he is just a silver player in this one game for no reason and has 11 deaths. Like, and then we're all supposed to sit there going, well, yeah, how could we interpret that? Meanwhile, you type in like a naughty word from fucking the 20s or something, and they go, oh my God, ban him, ban them all, get them all out, purge them all. It's like, there's no actual like proportion in League of Legends at all.
Yeah, there are a lot of like use or whatever you described yourself at, like the fun player that doesn't really care about the outcome, plays ranked, is good constantly in the game, high elo, gets in a game with pro players, and they're like, yeah, whatever, I don't care if I win or lose, I pick some useless champion and be used the whole game. Lose the game, doesn't really matter, win or lose, don't care about the outcome of the game, just playing for the lulz, right? And then the problem happens when there's a lot of those people in the same server, a lot of pro players, and then they have this thing where they're losing it. Like, Ignar is a prime example of this right now. He's losing it slowly. He's playing like, he's like gone from being a serious guy to what he swore to destroy, right? Like, he plays like top lane now and plays Singed, and he's playing brand support in my games, and I'm like, what the fuck happened to this guy? He's like, he lost it, right?
For us all.
Yeah, like, he actually lost it, right? He's like, he's done, right? And it happens to more people than just this guy. I've seen it happen to... Well,
Jesus Christ, Ignar. Edit top Singed. You've reached that moment, Ignar, in the movie Requiem for a Dream, where he's just injecting heroin into the same rotten, atrophied area for the millionth time, knowing he's going to lose that arm. Yeah. That's you when you lock in that Singed, Ignar. For shame, sir. You didn't, but it's the only thing you ever did in your career. You almost beat Faker. You didn't, but, you know.
Yeah,
for
you go
shame.
To his account and he's like playing some Pantheon here and there, some Singed top, some Renekton, some jungle games. You know, like, you're like, what the fuck happened to this guy, right? But it's like the product of playing continuously with people that don't give a fuck makes you not give a fuck as well. But you just gotta like stay in it, I guess, and try not to like lose it. But yeah, I think it's really bad that there's no high-low, I don't know, supervisor or something that watches over high-low games, because I think there aren't that many challenger games in NA. And there's a lot of games that are ruined by someone that clearly doesn't give a fuck, right? Like, he's like, okay, I died once, time to run down. And then they can just soft in the game. They can like go die somewhere. Fuck, man, my bad, guys. And then as long as they don't type anything, they will never get banned. Unless you go like 0-10, you sell your items, you got Moby Boots, you got on mid lane, you will never get banned. That's how it is, right? In NA, especially. So,
dude, I don't know if you know this, but in Europe, in Counter-Strike, right, we have a thing called the Face It Pro League, which is basically, it's like sort of like in-houses. It's like a pickup service, basically, for pros.
yeah.
And what happens is you don't have to actually be pro. Like, if you are in, like, a FaZe clan in CS, yeah, you can obviously get in. But you can also just be as good as a pro, basically. Like, if you're legit at their level, they want people who are potentially the next good pros to come and play with them and see if you know, show your skills off, see if you're good enough. But the point is, because it's not actually part of matchmaking, it's like a third-party service. Basically, Riot should do this logically if they want. Here's the thing, right? They're the ones who were against in-houses for so long because they want pros to be part of the wider ecosystem. Right? They want pros to play with everyone so that if you play as a random, if you're in Challenger, you could play with Zven. That's the logic they want, right? So in that scenario, I think for the top Challenger level games, they should have people like you're saying, like an admin has to be in the game, basically. Because the reason I'm bringing up the Face It Pro League is because it's a third-party thing and the pros are the only reason it exists. Like Face It would be, like they would have nothing, obviously, if the pros didn't play in it. They do put people in the game where like the pros themselves can say like this person needs to be like reviewed. Look how many games he's trolled, or he's purposely not tried in this one, or he threw the game on the last round to just fuck with his teammate, you know. And the point is, because pro players actually basically run it, they can just get that guy kicked out. Like, right, he's just ruining everyone's game. So if enough people say, yeah, this guy's a troublemaker, he gets kicked out. So I'm not saying Riot has to do this in like my silver games. Obviously not, that would make any sense. But there's not that many games go on at Challenger. Like you could actually do this. Like I think it would even actually clean up solo queue to some degree. We're not saying like police everything. We're talking about let's just start with, as we say, like the soft inters, the people who are just ruining the pros games. Start there, and that alone will have a knock-on effect, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean I don't know exactly how Riot's system works, but I think at least for Challenger, there's only 200 people in Challenger, or like something like that. Grandmasters, Challenger, High, whatever. Just have one person that watches every game that's someone gets reported in. I don't think it's that much to ask for. If people only report it when it was necessary, but if people have to have faith in the system, right? No one does, right? No one even reports anymore, right? So no one cares. But if there was one person watching the games, you could easily tell this guy is obviously trolling the game. Like he holds items, he stands in the bush for like 2 minutes straight, then comes back for like 2 minutes, then plays 2 minutes again, and he doesn't get banned. He ones down bot, dies, doesn't use his ult on purpose. You don't know that, but he's like, fuck, man, shit, XD, right? My bad, guys, XD after his 5th death in 10 minutes, and you're like, you know, this is pretty obviously a soft inter or a win trader or whatever, right? And then you report him, nothing happens. You meet him next week, same account, same everything, and he's like, oh, hey guys, smiley face. And instead of saying that, he's just saying, I'll int you because I hate you, you know? And there's nothing you can do about it. You have to dodge or take the L and then report him after the game and hope that something happens. But him going like 0-2-0 and losing the game on purpose isn't like bannable because you can't tell. It's a soft int, right? But if someone watched the game, they could tell this guy is not doing this on purpose, right? Like,
especially anyone pro, they would know if he was in. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, my jungler didn't get a rep buff because it deleashed. My bad, guys. I died to the damn jungler 1v1 because I'm down 2 levels at level 3. Oh, fuck, man. My bad. XD, guys. But like this happens so often in games, especially like the high elo people that everyone knows.
That's why I say it's the plausible deniability, Sven. Here's the difference. If I'm playing a bronze game, maybe that guy really did just accidentally auto-attack the red buff and steal the jungler's buff at the beginning of the game. If someone does that at the challenger level, mate, he was trolling. Come on. The odds of that are so narrow. He probably did that on purpose. Especially if he's the fucking AD carry and he goes straight to lane after that. Like, he definitely stole that buff. Come on, we all know it. We don't have to pretend like, well, who could ever know? It's like, it's at the challenger level, just ban that guy. Just get him out there.
Well, it's also the fact that there's probably only like 2 or 3, I would say, high elo lobbies going on at one time. Like there aren't that many games happening simultaneously.
Yeah, logistically,
so
the actual effort taken would be so beneficial to the scene.
You could probably have one person on 3 monitors do all of the games that are happening at one time and just like monitor them because it doesn't require your full attention. It's like, is there like an 0-10-2 Lee Sin in this game or not, right?
Or just watch the games that I've reported, you know, like watch the VOD real quick, you know, fast forward, watch the one player who's reported, and like, it's fine, it happens, right? All his other games, he plays fine, but this one game with this guy, and then this other game with the same guy in his team, he's, you know, coincidentally, 0-10, both games with a champion he never played before in his whole life. It's like, I go in the lobby, I see this one guy. He plays a champion he's never played his whole life. Right? Smiley face in the chat when you join his lobby. Logs in, plays jungle Veigar, goes 0-10. I'm like, shit, right? Okay, whatever. Next lobby with the same guy, he's again playing like jungle Teemo, 0-10. I'm like, shit, you know?
So here's a question.
Might be a target.
I don't understand this. So I don't understand why you can play champs in ranked if you haven't played like three normals with them. If that makes sense.
Well, the point is, it's basically the same argument again, Monty. It's like, again, in a world of extreme plausible deniability, yes, technically, we can't know if that guy trolled in that 0-10 game. But functionally, if you are a top-ranked player and you have never on your account ever played the champion and you play it first time in ranked and go 0-10, let's just go ahead and say 99% of the times that's trolling. It just is. Even if you really, by the way, even if you were really that bad, what the fuck are you doing playing it on ranked for the first time? That's trolling in itself. That would be like me going, but officer, I wasn't intentionally driving badly. I've never gotten a driving license. Well, why are you in a car then? In that scenario, it doesn't matter that you can't drive the car. It's functionally the same as if you were just drunk driving in it. Like, you should be arrested. So in the same scenario, like I've never understood that excuse. Basically, what we're getting to here is, why are these things fine, but then like typing something mean is bad and you get banned? Like, why is it fine in ranked mode to play something for the first time? The odds that you can have any competence on it are almost none. And what is the purpose of ranked? We're all trying to be at the right rank by playing the game properly. We're not playing for fun. That's what normals mode is for. The worst thing about League of Legends is, dude, you can even make a custom server and play the champion for the first time. So the idea you're playing it in ranked, that is just toxic inherently.
Yeah. Let's talk about some LCS games. How about that? I know Sven's
probably the one he lost then, just to keep it interesting.
Well, okay. I want to start with before we get into that specific game, because you guys had one dominant game this weekend and one game that arguably you should have won. But I've been talking to you guys a lot over the course of this year, and all of you guys said that your goal this split was to try new styles and to try and diversify the way you were playing the game, because you felt that you had played one style throughout most of spring, and that the only way to be internationally competitive, which I agree with this philosophy, is to try to do different things. And so you yourself have been playing the Wukong, worked out sometimes, didn't work out other times, and you tried this really wacky Hecarim buffing composition, which I loved, by the way. But how hard are you taking these losses in this context, or what is the philosophy around the way you guys are drafting and the way you guys are playing this split?
Well, first, I hate fucking losing. Like, it's nothing I hate more than that. And I really hate losing when I play, poorly. And I didn't play well yesterday against Team Liquid, and we could have won that game so easily. Like, we got so far ahead for nothing. Like, Syndra was dying all the time to, like, stupid shit, and we got a free first blood, and we were so far ahead in the game. But me and Vulcan made some mistakes in lane, got ganked, and died to, I think, 3 out of 4 ganks, and we didn't wait for Hecarim to come around, and I got caught once at the Baron, and they got Baron, and the game was over from it, which really upset me, because I hate losing because of me, right? So the game was won.
Well,
at some point, like
to be fair, when you died at that Baron, it was because Blabber dodged the hook and then it hooked you.
Yeah, I agree with that. But like, if it hit him, it would also have been bad, right? So we were just in a bad position, looking for a bad play.
At least he could have ulted over the wall or something. You know what I mean?
That's true. Like, we were looking for a play, me and Blabber on the mid wave, but we knew they were there as well. We pinged they were here, and we're like going for a play that we shouldn't have went for, and I got hooked, and it was really bad. But like, besides, I hate losing. I really hate when it's my fault, but we don't take it that hard that we can't say like, we're playing something we haven't played ever in our lives, and we didn't play it so well because we didn't practice it all too much, but it was a good learning experience, so I think it's fine. But yeah, like back to what you said before, we're trying to play some new stuff. The Wukong is one thing, but the Zone Locks is another thing. But in general, we're trying to like just play more towards other people. In spring we had to stretch the style of Nisk and Blabber play for that 2v2 the early game, and they come bot side. Eric Licorice plays complete weak side the whole game, every game, and we just play towards bot side because we were always winning bot in that meta where I think we understood the Aphelios center matchups better than anyone else did, and we understood how to do Dragon at 5 minutes, gank bot or not, and then go top to Herald. We kind of like innovated the spring split playstyle that people had of, Drake at 5 minutes, Herald at 8, Drake at 10 minutes again, and then Soul at 22 minutes every single game, and we just did it better than everyone else, and we played our 4-man, our bots and mid jungle was just better than everyone else, so we played that way every game. But then towards summer, we said, champs like Jace and Kennen are becoming better again, and Wukong is really strong, so we should maybe play more on top side to, cover our bases in the future, because you can't beat a Worlds kind of team if you end up being in a top lane carry meta. I remember this at Worlds in Season 5 when we were in Origin, we played bot side every single game, right? And at Worlds, suddenly, Riot dumps this huge fucking patch with like they call it
Juggernauts.
Juggernauts, yeah. And it was like Riven, Darius, Hecarim kind of meta, and we didn't play topside ever. Game plan was monster broken, and we never played topside. And we were like, well, fuck, you know. And we sat down one day. I remember it. We sat down, and we're like, should we change the way we play and play topside? And we were like, no, I don't think so. So I said, no, I don't think so. I think just play bot and try to win with that style. We played the whole year, and we kind of like admitted we had a flaw, I guess, as a team, and we just said, just fuck it and see how far we can go with this, because it's better to take what we have now and just play it and see how it goes. But I think it's
like, you don't agree with that still as a philosophy now, though? Because like I think you were right to do that, mate. Like,
yeah,
that's
like,
so you know the years when like bot wasn't like you didn't put everything through bot, but RNG would obviously still.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was exactly the example of Uzi.
Like, what would the point in like, even if like Fiora was the most broken top lane champion ever, I'm gonna go ahead and guess the RNG top laner on Fiora probably still isn't a better win condition than Uzi,
totally
fucking Azaya or whatever, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what we said back then, and in hindsight, I still agree with it. But if I could go back, I would rather have practiced something else.
Right, from the beginning. This is what you're getting to, right? This is what you're trying to do in the split now?
Yeah, in Origin, we didn't have the luxury to afford it because we had no points in spring split, so we had to like actually win summer split to go to Worlds or win the Gauntlets. We couldn't like afford to experiment or test stuff. We had to just win right now. But in C9, we already are first place right now. We've been the whole year. We are sharing right now, whatever. But we make playoffs no matter what, right? So I feel confident we'll make Worlds in this team and this year. So we can experiment now, and in scrims we practice topside more and practice, you know, playing these kind of carry champs, whether it's Jace or Lucian or Kennen or whatever it is at any given time. We play towards Eric more in this split than we did in other splits. And we saw it earlier in the split. Nissi played LeBlanc one game, for example, first game in 2 years, because why not, you know, try something else. And we played the Jace game top, we played Wukong, we camped top with TF the whole game, right? We're trying to like spread our wings, I guess, or whatever you call it, and make sure we aren't a one-trick team that just plays bots at every game and then you go to Worlds and you play on someone who's, you know, better at you than that, or even worse, the meta changes towards a topside meta, right? And then you're like, fuck. Because if you go to Worlds and it's like Urgot, Aatrox was OP as fuck, remember that year? And then you're like, oh, I'm Team Liquid and my best player is Double Lift. My other side is Impact and we can't win anymore because we are not a top team. We're not a mid and top end team. And my solo lanes are Pop Up and Impact, and now I just can't win anymore because I can't lane against the Shy and Rookie. Or you're like, oh, fuck, you know? So you want to start earlier if you can, and we can't do that because we have the luxury of being first place the whole year. So we're trying to, you know, prevent that happening ever to us, because I think we're already good enough at playing one style. So why not play some mages in ball lane, play some Wukong, play some Solo Locks, play whatever is, you know, possibly a meta pick, and then try it, and then see what happens. And if it doesn't work, then you can go back to what works.
And also, I even think right now, by the way, like this might be the year where that's the most viable of any year in the past. Because if you look at how much draft decides the game right now, dude, you don't even have to be like the best on the comp you're picking. Like if the other person just doesn't play against some of these comps, they're going to be shit out of luck in the draft. Like the impact you could have there, just having these like aces up your sleeve if you go to Worlds could be huge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that Impact can't play a carry, right? I'm saying that...
Yeah, it's a general trend, though. Of course, he's not going to beat the Shy like 3 out of 5 times.
If he spent the whole year playing towards bot side, then obviously Impact won't be as good at carrying the game when he gets the champion he's supposed to carry on, right? And then Eric is a much better like Aatrox, Ornn, play alone, weak side kind of player, and he's good at not dying on weak side. I'll give him that. This is his biggest strength as a top laner. But he can carry games too. If he plays Jace or Wukong... We saw that one game against IMT where we camped top the whole game with TF, and he was like 10-0 on Wukong, and he solo killed Ruin that one game. I know it's Ruin and Alorem, right? But he still carries the games. He played Wukong with Malphite. I can't pick, by the way, for Malphite, and he solo killed him level 2 and 3 and 4 and carried the game, right? So he can carry if he's given the tools to, right? And I see that happening in my games, so I think we're just trying some new stuff, and I don't read into our losses too much. I think the one against EG kind of pissed me off because we're playing sort of standard, whereas against one of these we're playing Wukong ball lane against
I think the EG loss was way worse than either of your other two losses.
I think against EG we were suffering from winning too many scrims. We had this combo of like Ashe, Bard, Lee Sin, like no tank, no real good CC, and then in scrims we just kill people with this stuff and we just win lanes and we roll people. But you go in an LCS or on stage, right, online stage, and people don't int as much and they don't die to every play. And then you're like, oh, we have Smurf champs like Bard and Lee Sin and Ashe.
Well, it's an
And
execution-heavy comp, right?
Yeah, and that works in scrims because in scrims people die no matter what you're playing. Like in scrims, playing early game champions or Smurf champs, as we call them, is OP as fuck because people just die all the time. You get ahead and you're like, oh, we can win without comp. But then we play in stage and playing as Alistar and Volibear, and I'm like, I can't fucking ult anyone. I can't arrow anyone. They won't die. They all have mercs. I'll have Alistar ult or Volibear ult to dodge it and tank it. And I'm like, oh fuck, I can't do anything. And then we're playing against GP with Ashe and Syndra. We're like, holy fuck, we just can't win this game. We're so drafted, right? But in scrims, the comp we played would win. Like we could win in scrims for that comp because people die to everything and every single gank, every play, which is a problem where we didn't recognize our comp actually sucks against theirs. Because in scrims we'll win with that comp. We'll be like, oh yeah, it's fine, right? Our comp was okay. But it wasn't at all. I think our comp was terrible that game. And playing Ashe Syndra versus GP is already bad enough. Having Bard, Lee Sin, Ashe as your engage versus Alistar Volibear isn't good enough. Lee's also not good against Volibear. It's like it was a mess of a draft in the first place. And it was bad, but we didn't play well. Like at least if you play well, you can say draft was the issue. Against TL, I think draft could have been better, but we did not play well enough to say that was the issue. So it like
I think the draft was really good. I mean, I think the game plan against TL was really good because you know that composition. Like I'm sitting there at the start of the game watching it live, and I'm like, oh, interesting. So they're trying to play around the fact that TL doesn't have a lot of early action. That TL has been playing these long games. So basically what you guys were doing is saying, hey, TL, you guys are going to have to make some moves on us or in the early game because otherwise we are absolutely going to shit on you in the late game. Like if it ever gets to that scenario, no one is surviving this massively shielded Hecarim. And I think there are two stories that got lost in this game that are very important. One of which is this was the first time that all 5 C9 players had played these champions this year, which, by the way, I don't think I've ever heard of before in a professional game that every single player would be playing a new champ, except for obviously like the first couple games of a given year, right? If that's the kind of criteria we're using. So it was clearly like something that you guys had been working on as a total composition and that you might not be the most comfortable with.
So wait a minute, Cloud9 softened the game. They were all playing champions, they didn't even play. We got him, guys, finally. Right. We set him up earlier with the questioning, he's given himself away, and now we've done it in a pro game. Get him out of the league. Get him out of the league now. It's toxicity.
Yeah, payback Steve, I guess. But
so, So the other narrative that I think kind of went by the wayside because there was a lot of focus on the itemization, I think, in the top and mid lanes. In particular, I think the rest of the itemization, especially on Blabber and you and Vulcan, was fine. We'll get to the itemization in a minute, but I think the other thing that's kind of gone away is like, how did they win that game? Well, honestly, it was a lot of core JJ playing like a fucking beast. And also the fact that Blitzcrank was an excellent pick when you guys as summoners were down in the bottom lane. Like his roaming was really good. The Blitzcrank is very good at diving you under turret or punishing a Luxona lane when you don't have summoners. He can clear the shields by using his ultimate. So even if you guys were to have, you know, high AP in the late game and have those shields, he still has an opportunity to get rid of them. And finally, I thought his itemization was super smart with the fast QSS so that he could avoid, you know, he was diving Licorice and trying to punish the, you know, when he got taunted by Shen, just QSSing, taking aggro or CCing the Shen under the turret. So these are all factors. Like Core JJ is honestly like, he should be an MVP candidate for this season based on the current performance. Like he might be the leading. I think we can say, you know, there's an argument that he's in fact the leading MVP candidate for this.
I don't agree. I think one thing about MVP thing is that MVP isn't just performance; it's also like
impact,
the value to your team, right? Like Team Liquid without Core JJ and Jensen to an extent would be a joke, like an absolute fucking joke, right?
Yes.
And they rely so much on 1 or 2 players carrying the game that calling them an MVP candidate is fair, in my opinion. I think that since C9 has dropped some games, people don't really look at us anymore, and they're like, whatever, give someone else for the story. I think Core JJ is relied upon a lot from Team Liquid to make plays, and if he doesn't make any plays, then there's no plays happening. It's either Jensen wins lane and carries the game from that, or Core JJ hooks people or bottles people or roams or something like that, right? There's no other plays being made in this team, right? So I think it's fair enough to say that he's an MVP candidate right now, and he might even be the front runner, honestly, because
I think
their team is first place with us. So yeah, I think honestly it's fair enough.
But like
no one in C9 had.
I just feel like, you guys lost that game, sure, and you had a lot of ways to win the game. You had a big lead on a composition that I think was going to outscale. You guys were playing the Herald and the Dragon a lot better. You had everything going for you. But who was the dude who was actually making the plays? Who was the dude who was making smart itemization choices with the QSS early on? It was Core. And like the pick certainly helped him against your composition. I think Blitzcrank was actually super underrated and smart in that draft about what it could do to you guys. But he delivered on an impact not impact the player, but high impact champion, right? In that scenario. So I think that there was too much of the narrative that was kind of put on you guys and not enough about how well Core is playing as a player. Not only in this game, but across the season. So, that was kind of like, I want to revisit that a little bit. As far as your guys' mistakes, I know you got caught out by the Baron, which, again, I was rewatching that this morning, and I was like, this isn't really entirely his fault because you thought Blabber was blocking you, and yes, it was still a mistake to be there, but, you didn't know you were going to be the one to get hooked in that scenario. You had no escape mechanism.
It's excusable in a way, but still, like, we shouldn't have been in that bush anyways. We knew he was there, and we were like, this is a bad play to look for anyways, but yeah, I agree. But back to, like, the MVP thing, I think MVP last couple of years has been more of a best player in best team, not a most valuable to a team kind of thing. I think like a good MVP would be like Forgiven in 15 with SK, right?
Right, sure.
He was the one-man army in that team, right? Or like Reckless in that 2017 spring, was it? Or whatever.
I think
Like, he was
summer,
like,
yeah,
summer,
like hard carry
He was
play,
like, he was like complete 1v9 every game, or they couldn't win, right? That's like MVP for me. Even if you weren't the best team, because GG was better than Fnatic, right? But he was the MVP, right? I think that's like a good MVP award where you give it to the guy that without this guy, they can't win a game. And I think TL right now, without Core DJ, will have a really worse record than they have right now. So I think him being the front runner for MVP is very justified IMO. And yeah, I think with C9 looking worse, that he'll probably end up getting it if they don't lose a lot of games coming up next couple of weeks. I think other good candidates like have been like Power Evil for Flight Quest, for example, is like complete 1v9 mission. Last split, Jisuke was complete 1v9 every single game they played. He's benched now. I don't know why, but it looks like EG's winning more games. So
well, we can talk about that. I have thoughts.
That kind of player, IMO, is the best candidate for MVP, not like someone who's just performing well in the best team.
So put it this way, I would give the analogy in Europe. I think it's the same thing going on right now, which is Mad Lions has too many players that all look awesome. So it's hard to pick who the MVP is. Whereas if you go and look at Rogue, who had the same record as them until recently, like I think fucking Larson is probably like 80% of that team. Like he basically has to carry every game on the Champions League gets. So by the same logic, I think I would give him in Europe, So
well, we had a conversation last week with Gyoto, the coach of Origin, where we were talking about Crown Shot in this exact same scenario, which is like, what is SK without Crown Shot? Like, what is your criteria for MVP? Because if your criteria is, biggest difference without that player, like basically what you're saying is you're rating players on the wins above replacement metric, then Crown Shot would probably be pretty far up there.
Yeah, the other thing is you gotta be careful you don't give it to someone just because he's in a bad team and he's carrying that team, right? Because if you replace Crown Shot with like, let's say, Carsey, would Carsey carry SK as hard? He probably would, wouldn't he? Yeah. I think he would too. So it's like you have to be careful you don't give it to someone just because he's in a bad team, right? Like the Freeze in Copenhagen Wolves scenario where he looks really fucking good because he's the best player in a bad team, right? But like, if you replace him with someone else, would it be the same result? Yeah, might be actually, right? So
well, that's the wins above replacement, right? Where it's like an equivalent player that you could get. How many more wins does this player actually produce on a given team? So I want to hear your take on it. So why did you lose that game against Team Liquid? Like, what would you say were the biggest factors? Because everybody's dissecting it, obviously, right now. And for the most part, you guys played really well in that game, besides like a couple key moments where you got hooked that led to the Baron, etc. Yeah. But I thought for the most part, your execution was pretty damn good. And it struck me that you said earlier that you felt your laning phase wasn't very good, because even though you died in laning phase, you know, the TPs, the Stand Uniteds, everything that was coming down, you guys were getting more kills and objectives out of that scenario. So I didn't really see it as a big negative.
So in our review, after the game was over, we watched the game an hour later and we talked about and the main points were that first of all, we got a big lead from nothing. Like we got a kill mid on Blitzkrieg, I think, level 4, Merrick's TP. Suno died twice to ganks, and we got Wildfire head for nothing, which shouldn't happen in a
I agree.
real
You guys
game.
were lucky to have that lead.
So we said TL made mistakes they shouldn't have made. They made some really bad mistakes, Jensen especially, and one death on Blitzkrieg, I think it was mid. And then we said, for the play spot, even though we got more kills, we should have gotten way more, because if we waited for Hecarim on those ganks, like the gank was like level 6. So actually, no. At 8 minutes, we got Herald for free. They gave Herald to us completely for free. And we died bot to a gank. I think Vulcan died to a gank at this time. He got hooked and died. And you can't die bot when you're doing Herald. It's like top laners dying when you do Drake. It's just not good enough, right? And it's our mistake for not playing safe enough. And then later on, Bwipo was coming bot, said, hey, I have ult, we have Shen ult, let's make a play bot. And I'm like, okay, sure. But Bwipo wasn't here in time for the wave when it was in the middle. So me and Vulcan were too far up, and they ganked us. And even though we Shen ulted and we killed S3E7 and someone else, I think MonteCristo once, and next time we killed 2 people for 1 again, it wasn't that good, because it could have been a lot better, right? So these plays, even though we got more gold, it wasn't like a great play. And then obviously there was that one team fight in the Bob River where we kill Mordekaiser, Shen dies, and it's a 4v4, and we got the dragon. So I was calling just back. We got what we wanted, just back, go to the mid, get control mid lane first, walk to Baron, get full vision, set it up, right? And then someone else wanted to go, so they went in. I think it was Blabber. He went in,
he ulted.
And it was he ulted in the Hecarim, got one shot, and there was no follow up. I couldn't see the angle to go in myself, so I said just back. Blabber in the same second said go forward, and I guess it's a moment of, you know, anti synergy or whatever you call it, where he had one idea, I had a different one, and it was just bad.
Well, it's also that, like, when you're playing that kind of composition, as powerful as it can be, it does require a large amount of coordination, because he's not tanky enough to just ult their backline without the shields that you and Lux are providing. With Shen dead, like, there's no Stand United that you can use on him to get into the backline. So, it was the Mordekaiser dragged. I watched it again today. So Mordekaiser did drag Licorice and Blabber into that fight, but there was an opportunity to get out, and instead the call was to go in. And you guys.
Blabber was in a position where he had to ult somewhere, either in or out. And I was saying out, because me and Lux couldn't find an angle to like be part of the fight, because there was like triangle pillow, and we were like, I think I had one moment where I could flash forward and ulted everyone. I didn't take it, and then once I didn't take it, I was like, just fucking run. And we got dragon, just back, fight next dragon. It's our soul point, and just chill. But we went in, we died. It was pretty bad. And then there was opposite at one point at the Baron where the game was in a situation where it's probably like next team fight decides the whole game, and we're looking for play mid on Ezreal. But then I get hooked, and I one shot. Blabber tries to go in and like make off my death and kill Ezreal. He almost kills him. In hindsight here, we said, obviously my bad to get hooked. It's a terrible mistake, don't get me wrong. But Blabber shouldn't try to like make off on my mistake by killing Ezreal.
Well, there was kind of 2 things that were happening there, because Blabber, so Licorice was running away from Impact, was chasing Licorice around in the bot lane because he was trying to stop the Stand United. So Licorice didn't want to use it because he wasn't going to be able to TP in. But there is an argument that Kobe made on the cast that like even the shield would have been good enough to kill Tactical, even if it had been interrupted.
Yeah, we talked about it as well. That Blabber said, if you just hold me here, I'll kill this guy, and then I will probably die afterwards anyways, but they can't do Baron without Ezreal, so we agreed he should have ulted him once Blabber went in, but we all agreed that the better play would have been to not go in the first place and just defend Baron 4v5. It would not be that impossible, I think. But once they get Baron, they have Ezreal, he's too far ahead to die. And we play this kind of comp that we have, like a full dive comp, and they have Ezreal, probably the best not die champion in the game, the best self-defense ADC in the game, and he's ahead, it's bad. You can't kill him anymore. So I said in draft earlier, I think if you play against anything else, Aphelios, Ashe, just imagine Varus, these kind of champions against Hecarim, Shen, Set mid, they'll get rolled over, right?
Yeah.
So them having Ezreal was better than having something else. And I think that if they had, like, let's say they had Ashe or Aphelios, which is Tactical's other champions besides Ezreal, right? They will get rolled over. They would just die. Doesn't matter if they have 5 kills, they will just die one shot Hecarim, right? So I said this strategy probably works better against those champions than Ezreal. But besides, we made so many mistakes that we can't really blame draft because we could have won this game very easily. Despite
I really think that dragon that you're talking about where Blabber went in was kind of for me that showed kind of your mentality and your struggles as a team with adapting in terms of style, because normally you guys could fight right after that dragon, right?
We are just a very forward team.
Yeah.
Like we can't stop. It's
But-
like a
but, like,
problem of ours.
If you guys are in that scenario and you know you're winning the game, and basically their only win condition at that point in time was to get Soul or to get Baron, right? Because they were just screwed. And so you guys were going to outscale them in the late game. So like, okay, Licorice dies, but you stopped the Soul stacking. You guys were, but after taking that dragon, I think you guys were ahead in dragons 2-1.
Yeah.
So for
that was
me,
our
it's
sole
like for me watching you, it seems like the switch just has to hit where you guys have to reinforce your win conditions with this composition. Because regardless of criticism of itemization, if you guys had made a different decision in that moment, then I think you carry that momentum much better than like if you just hold back a little bit, which I know is hard because you were so heavily rewarded in spring for just going in all the time. And it's a different mentality because you're playing that different style.
Yeah, I think besides those things I mentioned earlier, we also had one problem where on the second Herald, me, Vulcan, and Niski were doing it together as 3, and we called that they will probably give up Herald because they can't fight right now, and they'll go bot. And then we said, just give bot tower. It's fine. It's low HP, no plates. Just give it. Go top and take top tower right afterwards. But Blair wanted to defend bot tower as 2 against 4, and we were calling it off. And Blair said, "I think we can defend this." And then we try to fight aggressively instead of defending the tower, and we end up dying. If we gave Syndra like 2 big kills and 1 shutdown, he got like 1,500 gold from that fight. And it was more of a greedy play from us to try to defend that tower when giving it is just better, right? And we could just farm. And those kind of plays, like that, like those deaths are so unnecessary. Dying there when we're getting Herald for free and just giving them gold for no reason, right? We knew what was happening, and it was like an unforced error. Like we just gave them kills, right? And that's a mistake as well. So I think that game just had a lot of mistakes that were really unforced. Like TL made some good plays, like ganking us spot and stuff like that, but in the end, we gave so many kills away for nothing. So
what do you think about the kind of item criticisms where, you know, Frozen Heart may not have been the best item to build on Shen in that scenario, even if you did want the extra CDR for more taunts? Or do you think Niski should have built more MR? Do you think that you could have won had you itemized differently on the mid and top lane?
Well, I think the Frozen Heart criticism might be valid because Ezreal doesn't attack that much, so it's like not the greatest value, but
Sure.
I don't know what's better for a tank in that scenario. I'm not like a tank expert. Like I can speak for the ADCs much better than I can for the tanks, but I think for Niski, MR might have been better. But you also remember that in this game, Syndra and MonteCristo were bots. Like they were actually bots, right? They didn't do anything the whole game. Like Jensen was lucky that he got those kills bot because he was not playing the game before that. He was just dying, giving us free gold, and he was being useless as fuck. And Ezreal was really fed in this game, right? Like he was the only player that mattered in this game. It's like basically if he dies, game is over. He's the only player. He's the only human left in this game, right? So I think buying, you know, less MR and more armor is fine. But once again, I'm more of I can speak for the ADCs, not for how the tanks should build. But I think buying armor in that case would be fine because Ezreal was the only player that mattered in the game. Although MR would be more effective because they have full AP damage besides Ezreal. So I think either is fine. But I think in this specific case, buying armor is totally fine because, like I said, they have one player left and it's Ezreal. Everyone else didn't matter in this game.
I also think the game wasn't won or lost based on itemization.
Yeah, I think there's been worse cases of, you know, losing the shopkeeper. I think there's been a lot worse cases than Frozen Heart Shen, which is 100 armor, and 20 CDR, which doesn't sound that bad to me. I don't know what's better in this case, but I think it's not the worst. And I don't even know what to buy that'll be better, so I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think it was
really
definitely
bad
not
things.
ideal, but
Yeah.
I think there were many, many other mistakes in this game, and that it
Yeah.
should not have. I don't think the conversation should be reduced among the fans to that.
I mean, for me, it's just like there's too many mistakes in the game. You know, me and Vulcan died 3 times to 4 or 5 ganks, and Flabber and Licorice died bot when we knew what was happening. We even called in the game, they still died. In team fights, we call back, we go in. I get called at the Baron. This kind of stuff is like there's too many unforced errors where they kill us on vision and we know what's happening and it's just not good enough, right? So when you do those mistakes, you can't say anything else than our mistakes lost us this game. Right? Sure, draft wasn't the greatest, maybe it could have been better, maybe we could have bought different items, but in the end, that wasn't the issue, right? The core issue was our play and we should fix that before anything else. And then that's all I can think about is my play in this game was just fucking bad. Like even laning wasn't that great. Like mechanically, I fucked up. I used the wrong power chord. Someone's passive, if you don't know. 1 or 2 times in team fights, and it wouldn't change the outcome of the fight. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, man. My ults weren't that great either. I had one Drake fight, I got flashed forward, had like a 4-man ult, and the Drake where we went in. And I was just like, man, you know, like I could play this
By
game.
the way, when
So
Monty
better.
said that you guys were all playing the champions for the first time this year, had you actually practiced this comp on like Secret Smurfs or something?
Yeah, we practiced in scrims. So I got told by someone in the EU that Sona Lux was played in solo queue by the same guy who created Sonataric or Sonatam
Right.
back in the day.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, let's get. I was like, Reaper, we win every game in scrim. By the way, like we win literally every game in scrim we play. Like we have like last 2 or 3 weeks we have won 95% of those scrims. We lose like 2 or 3 games on average per week. So I said, why not just try something? Like at first it started with this, right? We were playing against teams and we're like, okay, if we win 4 games in a row and we stomp them, we'll punish them by playing something new. And I said, Reaper, I want to play Wukong. Yeah, sure, let's try it. We played Wukong and Fiddlesticks mid, right? Or something retarded like this. And we just tried it for, well, not I won't say fun, but we tried to try something new. And then we started winning with it. And I was like, oh, that's actually pretty good. And then we tried it on Lux and scrims, and we're like, oh, we're winning every game with this too. And it seems pretty good. And we could probably cheese Team Liquid with it or cheese someone else with it, and they won't be prepared for it. And we tried it, played really poorly, and lost. But yeah, we do practice it in scrims. We don't play anything on stage that we don't practice in scrims. Unless something like, I can always play Ashe on stage, or Bowers, you know, no problem. But if it's something new, like a whole comp like this, we play it in scrims a lot, and we practice it over and over again to make sure we have it. But if it's something we played before, no problem. But yes, we did play this in scrims a lot, and we did try it, and you know, it didn't work because we misexecuted it on stage. But yeah, we did try it.
Do you have any final topics that you want to go over with Zven before we bring Bwipo on Thorin? Talk about some of the other teams in the LCS?
Well, I want to just know what your thoughts generally are on Team Liquid then, Sven, because even on the last episode of Summoning Insight, everyone just basically like downplays Team Liquid all the time. Like, they're not even that good, blah, blah, blah. It's like, listen, I actually sort of agree, because I agree with what you said earlier, basically. Like, that team is like 85% core JJ and then Jensen carrying on his carry champs. That's it. Like, without that team would be shit. But you know what? That's where I actually give them credit. Like, I think Jack looks like he's done a fucking good job coaching, mate. Like, on paper, you're supposed to be terrible when you lose double lift. And that was like the whole fucking team was supposed to be their bot lane in the past. So you bring in a guy who's a rookie. Like, there's a million ways this could go so badly. So even though I look at the team and I think they aren't as good as the record, like Broxton barely does anything. But like, to get that many wins, I think that's impressive with the team they've got. Like, they actually seem like they understand like what their win conditions are, put it that way.
Yeah, so first of all, I'll say that I think the tactical doubles trade was good for both TSM and for Team Liquid, because it seems like if you have these kind of players, like world champions, finalists, you know, people that won so many championships in NA, and they can't get better than 9th place, something is wrong, either personally or internally or both or whatever. I don't know, but I think there was a big problem there. So getting rid of double lift, putting TSM where he's probably happier, and tactical goes to the main team, he's probably like motivated to play. I think it's good for both teams. I think Tactical is really skilled and talented, and he's a good rookie player. And I think that just double lift had a problem with the team all the way around, and this worked out for both parts. Now, for Team Liquid's play, I think they aren't a good fit for each other right now. I think Broxa doesn't fit well with his teammates. He's much better at like Lee Sin and Elise and those kind of champions, but his team is more of a
Pick Trundle every game.
Yeah, they're more of a
basically
still at the same team they were before.
Yes.
But they have a different jungler who fits a bit different style. So it looks like really weird to me that they play these champs like Trundle and Graves, which he's bad at.
I think it's just funny because like they pick Broxa with the intention of powering up their early game, right? That's what we talked about heading into this season. But they don't change their style fundamentally.
Yeah,
like, it's the same style, just with a guy who's worse at doing it.
Like I think Blabber is the best jungler in NA by far. It's not even close. But imagine you put Blabber in Team Liquid and you pick him Trundle. I'm like, what the fuck, you know?
Would be a waste of time, yeah.
Blabber hasn't played one game of Trundle this year in LCS, I think, or maybe one game. Who knows? He plays Olaf and he played Gragas in Spring Split and Elise and Lee Sin, and like he doesn't play any Jarvan games except that one game he played and we lost. And he plays like the hard carries and the gank champs and the early game aggression champions because that's what he's good at. And I think Broxa is good at those champs too. So why not make him play those champs? I know TL is more of a tank, you know, mage mid, hyper carried bot, and then Coach J, whatever the fuck fits best. But that playstyle doesn't fit Broxah very well. So he looks very useless in a lot of games because they aren't playing to his strength. They're playing to Team Liquid's go-to playstyle, which is like the late game,
yeah.
AFK for a while, and then team fight and hope you win, and then the game is over, right? So, but I said this before on broadcast. After we beat TSM, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I said I think TSM is better than Team Liquid because TL got away with murder a lot of times in LCS this year. Against IMT,
yes, they should have lost some of those games.
We call it bangers nowadays, not fiestas, but it was like a 45-minute game. They were down a soul, I think, to IMT, and IMT would have won the game if Insanity hit Shockwave on a guy who was stunned. I think Aphelios was stunned in the base, and he missed Orion ult on him. And they won the game right after, because they went down mid and took the Baron and ended the game. I was like, what the fuck? Okay, that happened, right? And then against FlyQuest, MashMe and Power Evil fucked up at Baron. MashMe eat forward and died as Ezreal, which is iconic, because that's what I did too, right? So it's kind of funny in the sense that they relied on
Swagger jacking
once again. Yeah, once again they rely on that to win the game, and they won the game against FlyQuest, and they were like 8-2, I think. But it should have been, instead of 8-2, it should have been 4-4, or was it 6-2? I can't remember. Whatever. They should have lost both games that week. And before that, they had those games with like Jason TF, where they were like having a really hard time ending the game versus like Dick and Toss, or was it Golden Guardians, and they were like struggling so hard to win the game versus bad teams with Jace TF. So I was like, wow, TL really sucks. And then we also, in scrims against TL, we really stumped them when we play against them.
One of
like,
the easier teams to play.
But to be fair, TL style in scrims is the same as on stage. They play slow, they play the team champions. And Cloud9 scrims is the same as on stage. Like, we play early game, aggression, and in scrims, C9 style always wins against TL style. So scrims are scrims, right? But I thought TL wasn't that good because they get away with games they shouldn't be. So I thought, yeah, TSM is better. But we don't scrim TSM anymore, or FlyQuest that matters, so I can't really speak to who's second best. EG seems to have made a resurgence, so...
Why don't you scrim TSM anymore?
I don't know. We just don't.
Just got too sick of crying.
I think that...
I know the reason why. Don't say the reason why.
I don't know why.
You don't? It's like, oh, we're losing. Oh, this sucks.
I really don't know why.
Okay.
TSM and FlyQuest said they don't want scrimmers anymore. And,
oh, wait, really? So it's their call?
I think so. Isn't
okay.
it? I mean, if you know, then you should know. But
no. I thought it had to do like TSM famously like takes a long time during scrims.
Right, TSM should be banned from LCS. They're soft in LCS. They're not even practicing as properly as they should. Get about the league.
I don't think it's anything to do with that, because a lot of teams do that thing where they have like the game is like 20 minutes long, and then the review is like 35 minutes. I mean, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, sure.
But like, it's not just TSM that does that. A lot of teams do that, and it's really annoying. But one day, I was told by my managers, I was like, why are we scrimming these teams? They're so bad compared to TL, Fly, TSM. And then I was told, Fly and TSM don't want scrimmers anymore. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. Whatever, right? Which sucks, because they are, despite the review time, good scrim partners, TSM and FlyQuest. So that kind of sucks. But now we can scrim TL, I hope. So there's that. But yeah, like I said, I thought TL was worse than TSM at the time. But then TSM lost some games in a row, and they were like looking really bad. So I'm not sure anymore who's second best. But I think TL is good. Don't get me wrong, but they aren't as good as the record shows. And I think we'll fuck them up next time we beat them in playoffs, hopefully. But I guess I don't know how the format works nowadays, but I don't think 1 and 2 meet each other in playoffs, do they?
I mean, in the final eventually, or the finals, but no, I mean, it's
I
very
mean, they
likely
could if
you'll
you
meet-
guys like one team lost and you guys like got into a losers bracket together. There's scenarios, but you wouldn't hit each other early for sure.
Yeah, actually, it's a fun thing about the scrim thing. It started with some teams, not TSM, just mentioning it, that told us, "Hey, we want scrim C9, but not on Fridays." And we were like last split, right? We were like, "Huh, why?" Because it's the day before LCS. Okay, sure. And sometimes we couldn't find scrims on Fridays because teams didn't want to scrim us on Fridays because it was like demoralizing or confidence breaker, I guess, or whatever. And then it started like that, where some teams were just like, "Yeah, we don't want to scrim you guys on Fridays, but we can do it Tuesday or Wednesday, no problem. Thursday also fine, no problem." And then it evolved now to some teams that want to scrim us at all, which I don't know. It's because of if we're just annoying to play against, because we play like a lot of weird stuff. Like, imagine you're FlyQuest, right? You go into scrims, you see 5 games of Sonlux. And you're like, well, this is fucking AIDS, right? And you go on stage, play against who was it they play against this week? They play against TL and someone else who are very standard teams who don't play anything else than normal champs, right?
That makes sense.
And you're like, yeah, I'm gonna play against TL who plays Aphelios and Ezreal every single game. So me playing against someone Lux is a time waste for me, right? That's a fair enough mindset to have. So it could be that, I guess, but whatever.
I do think that you guys.
For you, Sven. I want to ask you this, right?
Okay.
If you're winning all the scrims, like you're barely having any where people beat you, and now you're even potentially having problems with getting people to play you, right? I'm not trolling when I say this, genuinely. Why don't you just play some of the scrims and purposely like in the draft just to give the other team a chance?
Yeah, we do. You remember I told you that we have this thing we call punishment, where if we go 4-0, we just troll pick.
Right there.
It started as that, where I would play Kalista and I would go top one game, and Eric would go mid, and then Nisky would play ball lane. And I remember in Spain Split, we did this against FlyQuest once. I played Kalista, I went top, and Eric played GP mid, and then Nisky was playing ball and Syndra or some other mage, and we were like making fun of them, right, in this game. Like we were fucking them, and I was like, whoa, this is a thing, right? We can win while doing this, and they don't even like. It's not even close still, right? And that was like a Spain Split thing. But now we still do it where we pick one day we pick Sana Wukong, 5th game out of nowhere. We play some fun champs mid, or like play our first time champion out of nowhere. It's like, yeah, I want to play Shyvana jungle. Okay, sure, go ahead, picks it, or picks Kayn or some other champ that no one ever plays. And the game is still winnable for us. So we're like experimenting in scrims too. I think we do lose some more scrims. Like last week we lost 2 games to EG, so there's that. But like we still lose less than 5 games per week, and we scrim 20 games or 25 games per week. So we lose very little games per week, and yeah, we do troll pick sometimes, and I understand why that makes teams not want scrimmage, because it's bad practice to play against Solan Lux or Wukong ball lane or whatever my teammates play. I don't want to leak here. So
I mean, it does make a lot of sense, especially because you guys, you unfortunately are in a situation. Well, fortunately for you, unfortunately for your opponents. So like, there's kind of a no-win scenario for them, because your goal is to do weird stuff so that you guys have surprises and that you guys have really big champion pools and you guys have different styles. And their goal is to get better at League of Legends to actually be able to compete with you. But when you are sort of decreasing your level of play by experimenting, and it's not helpful for their opponents in a given week, then it does make sense that they might not be too interested in scrimming.
Imagine scrimming D2, in their like last year's prime period, where
must have been
you win a scrim and then they pick Pike top. You're like, okay, this is a time waste, because no one else will play Pike top in their lives, right? They pick Bar jungle or something else that's stupid as fuck, right? And they can play it and they can pull it off, but no one else can. So you playing as Bar top or Pike jungle is just a complete time waste, because I don't think Splice or whoever was in LCS Misfits will play fucking Pike top, right? So it makes sense you want to scrim that kind of team, even though they're way better than everyone else.
Yeah.
Just because you want to have a scenario that's more of a simulation to your preparation for this week's LCS matches, right? So like teams always ban champions. Like let's say we're playing against TL, we're like, okay, we're gonna ban this. We're gonna ban Asir because Jen's the best champion. We're gonna ban Bard for Core GG. I'm gonna ban this. And then you go in scripts, you play against Teemo support because it's Mickey X, and you're like, well, this fucking sucks, right? So it makes some sense, in my opinion, if that's the reasoning behind it.
Makes sense. Well, thanks for joining us, Zven. Won't take any more of your time.
Thanks for having me.